I read a script and I'm like, either I'm completely drawn to it, or I get into should I not? Then I start thinking of the pros and cons, and mostly then that won't happen. The moment I get into a long drawn process of thinking about it. Very early when I did Satya, I realized that it is not the length of a role, it's the strength of a role that matters. I mean, Satya was actually, I think, 7 minutes, including the song or something like that. But it's still remembered. So I realized that the kind of work I want to do isn't going to come every day. It's going to come once in a while. It used to bother me, I have to admit, where you feel miserable. And, it was like I'm getting appreciated, but it's not translating into more work or the kind of work I want to do. So I would pick one odd, once in a year, once in 2 years kind of a thing. And I think I did Dil Dhadakne Do. And after that, I got offered 2, 3 projects which were in the similar world. In terms of, I was offered Neerja and Kapoor and Sons. And I loved the scripts and I loved the parts. But I just thought if I'm going to do it, it's going to be consolidated, that this is what it is, this is how it's going to be. So I decided to wait again and wait, and touch wood, that wait somehow worked out thanks to OTT. Because then, at my age, there was a part that I was playing and I was leading a show. And that kind of broke a lot of norms for a lot of actors. After all the studying, once the camera rolls, I don't know what I do. It just happens. And I genuinely believe that out of mistakes, magic happens. I read it in 45 minutes and I said yes. It was really as simple as that. It was, one is I couldn't put the script down. Two is it had 2 points where it completely took me by surprise. And three is because I thought she was such a cracker of a character. And of course, I loved the entire premise of it. I want to underline the cracker of a character is because she's been a widow for the longest time. She's a single parent, but that does not stop her from having that zest for life. When you see her, she's put together in her own way. Like she must be getting her eyebrows done. It's that kind of a thing. She has a fun element to it. She's wicked. She's really wicked. And she's funny. So there's nothing really, I wouldn't say she's over the top, but she's not one of the quietest, most demure, absolutely subtle kind of characters that I've played. And I feel that Shamshu Nisa is the closest that comes to me as a person. I like to believe I'm funny. I know I'm wicked. I want to kill a lot of people. No, I'm joking. And I am fiercely protective about my children. Overall, on a general scale, I have fun. So yes, my characters speak very differently, that, I'm very, very held back and serious and all of it, which I do in portions. But overall, if you see, I think I'd like to believe I'm a fun person to be with. I met a person who lived in that place and who spoke in a way, got me to meet this person. And I think we just spent like some 2, 3, 4 hours. And we didn't speak about the lines or anything, obviously, but she was just talking about her life, and then it's about how she was talking, of course, and her entire demeanor, but more so the speech and the way she speaks, etc. So I think that is where it came from. So there is a certain quality, you can kind of make out that there is a certain quality of where she belongs or who she is. Her daughter still has a certain amount of romance to her in her mind. Alia, the character Alia played. But Shamshu is very clear that this is not going to change. He's not going to change. She just wants her daughter to get out of this relationship. And of course, she's talking from first-hand experience. She's been through it. Also, in the end, what she says to Badru, that one is he could have been left there tied to be run over, which the responsibility of which would stay as a burden on Badru for the rest of her life. But the fact that she chose to let him go, and then, destiny played its part, where she says it in the car when they're heading back that, agar marti to yaad aata rehta, which is important. I think we had great chemistry. The first time we met and we started reading, and we were already jamming, which was great. And I mean, she's a wonderful actor, and she's a very giving actor as well. So, yeah, and I think we had a lot of fun. We really had a lot of fun. Like, there were days we'd just keep cackling, because the scenes were funny and everything about it was funny. But I think the mother-daughter relationship was, I think it just fell into place immediately. I don't even remember that, we had to really work around it. The first reading, and we were already starting to overlap each other, coming up with suggestions, doing our own thing. The sweetest moment is when Zulfi says that he's interested in her and not the daughter. I think that was too cute. And then she goes and kisses him to shut him up, and then suddenly realizes, oh, okay, I'm feeling something in this whole thing. So I think that is a beautiful moment. I think it's very, very cute. A very small thing, I don't know if people noticed it or didn't notice it, she had manicured eyebrows. A lot of these women, they go and they have these proper thin eyebrows. So it's like she was all put together, and Veera did the costumes, and we were like, let's make it uglier. We started looking like Sanmaika at a point of time. The clothes were hideous. And then we would sit with a bunch of ugly rubber bands and hair clips with some nonsense hanging. It was like, let's put all of it together for her. And it's a huge, huge part to play in what she looks like. I remember Mukesh Chhabra, the casting director, he called me and he said, there is a director. He's come from the UK. He has a project and he would like to meet you. And it's a very important part. And I was like, of course, sure. And Rishi met me, I think the next day. The first thing I noticed is we both put our feet up and sit. It has no reference to context with the project, but I'm just saying. And I think in 5 minutes, out of which I think 1 or 2 minutes went in, aap kya khaoge, kya piyoge, coffee laun, whatever. He told me the one line of it, and I said yes. When he started, I kept thinking, what does he want me to play in this? Nirbhaya's mom, or where is he going with this? And I also realized that it was not about the incident. It was about what followed the next 5 days, which I was completely unaware of. And I said yes in an instinct. He gave me 8 scripts. I said, give me a couple of days because there's a lot of material to read. And I took it home. I think in 4 hours, I finished all of it. And I said, I'm doing it. It was really as simple as that. And one is, what an amazing, I wouldn't say story because it all happened. But like as an audience, or forget as an audience, all of us got affected by that case. And I think there was one question all of us asked, I asked, why is nobody doing anything about this? When I heard the story and I read the script, I realized there was somebody who was doing something about it, and it was a woman. And she got all those 5 guys. So it was extremely powerful, and it was a no-brainer. I just had to do it. I had the honor and opportunity to meet Chaya Sharma, who was the DCP South District when she cracked this case. And of course, I met her for a coffee, which was just 2 hours. I asked her some questions which were more related to the procedure, and there are certain things that where the rules, regulations, how you function as a cop, etc. And of course, what was her mindset at that point of time. But then Vartika had to be her own person. She had to be her own person. I'm not a good mimic. I'm terrible. So there was no way in hell I could have mimicked who she was. But then there were long sessions with Rishi going over it. And like I said, because it was a story of 5 days, continuous 5 days, I had to keep rereading it to remember it. Because you could forget. So I started a new technique, which I still follow, is that, before exams, on a chota piece of paper, you just write pointers. So what I did was every episode end, there were pointers of what happened in the episode. So when I had to go back, I would just go back to that and read that whole thing and, go back into whatever scene we were doing or whatever episode we were shooting for. Also, one of the things that we both agreed on immediately was the story would evoke a lot of anger and a lot of pain. But if she kept screaming and she kept crying, it was going to lose impact. So there were very, very selected moments where you see that part of her, So all that was thought of. But once the camera rolls, you've got to forget everything, every single thing. We had a reading with the entire cast a day before we were starting. And Bhupinder and Vartika are very close. Like they're very, very close. And I'd met all these people for the first time. I'd not met Rajesh before this. But the next day, it just fell into place. Another thing, very important. When I wear that uniform, I walk different. It's just something. I walk taller. I'm getting goosebumps when I say this. I walk taller, and there's just something about it. I'm so proud when I wear that uniform. I had a lot of questions, of course. And I was very lucky that Chaya ma'am was very kind to answer those questions. So if there was a doubt, I would text her and say, does this work? Does this not work? And she'd tell me whether it did. Like, for an example, the interrogation scene where she's sitting like this and talking to this guy. Now, in my head, I'm wearing a uniform, okay? And then I'm going to sit like this. So it's Mr. Bachchan in my head. I was like, you can't let go of this moment, man. This is like total rock star moment. So I'm sitting like this and I said, I want to roll my sleeves up. So I was a little confused whether you're allowed to do that, officially. So I texted ma'am and I asked her, and she gave me a very good insight. She said it was one of the coldest winters and the heaters don't work in these cop stations. Now you decide you want to roll your sleeves up or you're not going to. It was a very simple thing. I would not have thought of it, but it makes a difference. Another thing is when you are doing something based on real life, it requires immense amount of sensitivity to not hurt those people who've already gone through that pain and to stay true to it. So to keep that balance, also even for Vartika, it is a personal case. And when you see season 2 or when we go into season 3, you make out that everything is personal for her. But there is a certain grace, or let's say there is power which she knows she has. So she does not need to raise her voice to get something done. Also in season 1, there is this sequence when she's making coffee and this cop comes and says, I need to go to the gym. In her head, she's like, is he dumb or is he dumb? But she does not let it come through. She plays him. She totally plays him. So her whole mindset is, and another very, very important quality, which I talk about Vartika in third person because that's who she is. And I don't want to go into what I did or whatever. It doesn't work like that. She knows exactly the strength of the people she's working with. So she allocates work accordingly. She knew that Niti was needed with the victim's parents. And hence she was, kind of put there for a reason. So when Rishi met me and I'd read the script, he said, this is what I did. From here on, I want you to take over. He was very, very clear. He never used words like you are an actor and I'm a director. He always said we are collaborators. Let's collaborate on it. And that changes a perspective. First sequence, in the hospital. It's a very small moment. But you know, there are these green curtains, wo hospital mein hota hai na. And when she comes out after seeing her, she takes 1 minute. She kind of just keels over. Doesn't cry, but there is a choke. She just keels over before she starts getting into official mode, action mode. Like, okay, that's a lot of like what I do. When there is a terrible, God forbid, if there is a big, big, difficult situation, I kind of shut out my emotions and do what is required. So that is what she does. The interrogation scene, I'd read that scene, we had done the lines, but it still did it for me. We were watching it, and I wanted to kill that guy. And he was an actor. We had done lines before that, but I wanted to kill him. I think we all felt so strongly about it. I felt very, very strongly about it. To actually hear what she went through, it was inhuman. I mean, it was animal behavior. And every case brings out a different part of her, probably a different strength, also a different weakness. She really defies people. I mean, it's not like she sticks to the rule book. I'm highly sensitive to a point of not being good, probably. I'm very, very sensitive. When you say focused, yeah, I'm obsessive. When I'm doing something, I'm totally obsessed with it. I eat, breathe, drink just that project or just that one thing that I want to do. And I think that's what Vartika does as well. She probably has a certain amount of control on her anger. I probably do not. I kind of react very spontaneously. She probably gives it a thought. So, it's a combo of many things. But I love her. She's just amazing. She's a rock star. Avinash and me spoke during COVID, and when we did a Zoom call, and he just gave me a basic one line of it. And I'd seen Avinash's work and tremendously, admire his work and what he does and what he creates. So I wanted to work with him. There was no question. Also, I knew that, there was a person who could handle the sensitivity of this. There was not a solid bound script at that point of time, but that's not something that bothered me because I knew who was going to direct it and make it and where had this germ come from. One thing that we agreed on immediately was that we didn't want to make a film which was sad. It didn't have to be pathetic. Pathetic in terms of just the pathos of it or painful. It was almost like her rediscovering her childhood. There was, that I felt that what happens is I am seeing somebody very, very dear to me going through this. So one of the first things that happen is you start going into a shell. You don't know, you're so used to somebody saying, you said this, or we discussed this, you don't remember, and you start going into a shell. You don't want to get out of the house. You don't want to talk to people. So initially, when you see Shailaja, she is almost into a shell. She's very tentative. You don't see her as a khula person. And you see the train journey, and you see how gradually she's starting to change from that very melancholy place to a certain thing she's looking forward to. That interaction she has with that little girl in the train. Just she's smiling much more. That moment where they go out to eat, she and her husband, she's laughing. You don't see her in that space until that moment. And everything about her was so fluid. When you do a certain project and you're like, this is who she's going to be. This is what we want to achieve. Here we were very clear that we'll get lost in this whole process. That's the beauty of who she is. I remember the first sequence we shot. One was a walk, and I'd worn a different pair of chappal. So we shot that, and then we moved on to the next scene. And the next day, Avinash said, he said, can we reshoot that? Because just that chappal doesn't work. I said, I absolutely agree with you. It was not about how it looked. It was about, when you have a certain heel, how you walk, and when you walk on a flat thing. And as you see the film progressing, there is she kind of eases out. She becomes more comfortable. Also, what is happening between her and Pradeep is unexplained, it's unnamed, it's probably unrequited on a certain level. But there is also, and the people they are surrounded by, I mean, the husband and the wife are so beautiful. They're such wonderful characters. And it was a film about very simple people, which still exists when you go to the interiors of the country. The moment where she is sitting on the dining table, when she goes to their house, and she sees the wife and the husband and Pradeep and the interaction, and there's no bitterness. It's just awe, like, oh, this is how it can be. And yet, it's a very personal thing that she says when she says, मैं कहीं भी पढ़ती तो पहचान लेती कि तुमने लिखी है. It's a very, very intimate thing, she said. The first time she meets Pradeep, the first time they come in front of each other, one is like, yeah, I'm in front of you. And one is almost like, I don't know if it was the right thing to do. She looks away. Like, it's just like, maybe, I don't know, I'm not ashamed of it, but I don't know whether I should have been here. There are very many moments where you see, like almost in the end, when they're at that mela. So that sequence is, of course, talked about so much. But just before that, she's with that little girl on that thing. And then they walk towards these people. There is a flair to the way she walks. She almost walks like a child. It's coming back. She's gone back an entire circle. I remember when we were doing the sequence, so we kept going round and round and round and round. And Jaideep and me kept weeping like children. But that was the soul of what it was. Or one of the most beautiful moments is the dance sequence. So I remember one of the chief ADs or whatever, and he came and he said, when the music starts, can you start doing this, tapping your hand? I said, no, I don't want to do it. You'll figure what you want to figure, but I won't do it. So you realize I've learned Bharatanatyam. So the posture is very straight. So, she's sitting like this, and the moment it starts, she automatically starts, her spine becomes stiffer, or her neck starts moving. You don't need a loud gesture like this. And then for that brief moment of it coming back to her, it's like a big thing for her. And then again, realizing, oh shit, it's lost. And she's shy. When you're telling a child that come now, and she's like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And when we were rehearsing it, blocking it, I think I told Avinash, I said, I'll move from here to here. Itna hi tha. We didn't get into the detail of what. And Jaideep was, of course, there because he was a part of the scene. And Swanand had come. So they were all sitting on the stage, obviously, because I was opposite and the camera was there. And I just told Avina, he said, what are you going to do? You're going to come back and sit here? I said, no, I don't want to come back and sit here. I'll just go there. Obviously, there must be something in my mind which I couldn't pinpoint or, clarify very obviously. And when she starts forgetting, she goes into a hiding space. It's almost like I'm ashamed for being who I am. And it's really sad. It's very sad. And I remember after we finished it and it was cut, everyone was weeping. Jaideep, this pahad of Jaideep is weeping like a child. Swanand is weeping. My team is weeping. Avinash has to, like, it was just, everyone was, and there was just nothing happened. After that moment, after he said cut, nothing happened for some time. There was just pin drop silence. That's it. So it was just, it's a very, very special film. And the most important thing is when, when it came to me, when Avinash told me, I jumped on it also because that, yes, I wanted to work with him, but because because of the characters I've played, there is this image that she's a strong woman. And I'm not taking away from the fact that there is, I mean, it's amazing for women to be strong. But I also feel there is great beauty in vulnerability. And if you're not vulnerable, why would you fight so hard to become and overcome an obstacle? And I saw her, Shailaja was so fragile. She was so vulnerable. She was unlike any of the characters I have played. I remember Chaitanya, my agents, they also represent Neeraj Gehwan. And he was planning this short film, Juice. And he wanted somebody younger. So, they said, why don't you think of Shefali? He said, no, I want someone younger. So he had my image from Dil Dhadakne Do. So Chaitanya said, just meet her once. I mean, there's no harm, like, and both of y'all admire each other's work, so just meet her once. And we met, and it was decided that I'm doing Juice. Simple. We were in that kitchen, which was actually claustrophobic. It was actually claustrophobic being there. So the irritation, anger, it was all a part of it. And obviously, he had thought through it. It was not just something that happened. Also, again, a fabulous cast. I just remember we were talking about the last sequence. And he said, should she say something? And I said, no, I don't think she should say anything. And he was like, yeah, even I don't think she should say anything. So she'll just be quiet. And before we did that last sequence, he made me hear a piece of music where he thought that is the kind of feeling which is also very interesting. There's this film called Kill Bill where she's put into the coffin and it's under the soil and she keeps hitting it till she comes out. That was the piece of music he made me hear. That is what happens to Manju. It's almost coming out for air. And then taking on all these men. And she doesn't need to say anything. I mean, you can make out what is going through her mind, what is happening just by the way she looks at them. And even the husband, he looks down. He's almost ashamed. And she doesn't break eye contact. Because all throughout, she's been submissive. She's been the, second-class citizen. And over here, she almost owns it. So it was lovely. And 15 minutes mein, I think only directors like Neeraj can tell entire stories. I think he touched upon so many topics. And, the sound design of it, the way it was shot, everything was so... I've never actually sat down with Neeraj and asked him, how do you work? Do you have a short breakdown or how do you go about it? Obviously, he must be having a short breakdown. I mean, you can't just... We shot it in 2 nights or 3 nights? That's it. And then you create something like this. And it's like, whoa, it's a film that hits you. By the end of it, it's like, wow. There was a very, very interesting... So a lot of people, at that point of time, there was Twitter. So when you put out ye film aa raha hai, whatever, a lot of people saw it. And there was a very, very nice comment that stayed with me even now. It was a young guy. He must have been around 24. I don't remember the age, but it was a young guy. And he had said, आज तक सुना था माँ के खाने में प्यार है. अब पता चला माँ के खाने में कितना गुस्सा है. So it was such a lovely thing and it made so much sense. Yeah, but it's one of my favorite films. And I think what I loved was that there is nothing she says. She doesn't say anything. I just remember the cooler was here and I came down and I sat and I just turned to the cooler because she wants air. And that's it about it. And I mean, that moment is, it's one of the most prominent moments that you remember. Like, she was a wicked witch. It was a film script. And then I think when people started, working on it with Moses, they both co-directed it. They realized that this is not, it's a lot to say in a very short time. Of course, the base was the human trials. And then there were these amazing characters. So when I read the script, there was, I mean, I wanted to play Gabbar. Like, in terms of, she has the power and she is really ruthless and wicked. So we used to do readings, etc., etc. And one day, I don't know where it came from, I suddenly had a brainwave. So some days away from shoot, I have requested Vipul and Moses. I said, guys, I need to meet y'all. So it used to be a joke. Okay, so if she's meeting us, cancel everything for the day because she'll come with her notes and questions and whatever. So I said, listen, I've been thinking about it. I think I know what I want to model her on. And they were like, okay, till now you weren't. Like, you didn't know till now? I said, no, that was different what we were thinking, but I don't want to do it like that. They were like, okay, fine. What are you thinking? I said, I want it to be Lady Diana's body and demeanor with Joker's mind. And that is exactly where she came in place. So she doesn't, I remember the network guys had come one day just like that to hear the reading or something. They couldn't hear me. So they got very worried. And they went and asked Moses and Vipul, we'll be able to hear her, na? We can't hear her. But it was very consciously thought of why she speaks softly. One is, she's somebody who just owns. So she doesn't need to raise her voice. Two is, when you talk softly, the samne wala aadmi automatically bends down to hear what you're saying. So it's direct submission. And she has the grace, even though she is wicked, but she has the grace. And in villains' minds, when you watch it from outside, you decide this is a bad person. But for the villain, he's not a bad person. Whatever they are doing is right. Also, the failure that she, despite of being a doctor, she couldn't save her son, which is a big failure, and that is something she's never going to get over. That also makes her bitter. The only difference is she doesn't let it show. But that kind of explains the trajectory. She's into complete destruction mode, almost from word go. She doesn't care about people. She doesn't care if she has to kill people for the gains that she wants. And that's how she functions. I have to tell you a very interesting thing. So the night before the show was going to drop, Vipul and me were sitting and having dinner. And I said, as a director, what do you think? And he said, yeah, good. But he said, your character can go either ways. You may not make impact at all because you've not played it like a conventional villain. I said, yeah, but that's the fun of it, no? If I played it like a conventional villain, to fir kya hota? But once it dropped, it was, I mean, I don't remember distinctly, but it was refreshing to see me like that. For people to, oh God, she can be so bad, which was great. And the way she was styled, I don't think I've played another character who is so well styled, who's so well put together, like she is. And, there is a thought behind everything she does. Everything she does. So that's how she's going about it. Her relationship with, you see this romance that builds between her and her protege, who's a woman. But I don't think that she's lesbian. She's not. She's just playing it. And she'll go to any length to get what she wants. So when in the end, when she comes and screams, it's probably the first time you see her physically voicing her anger. Until then, she doesn't. Even that moment when she realizes that, Kirti, she's kind of getting what is going on, and she just kisses her to stop this conversation. And the moment she goes, she closes the door and she screams, but there's no sound because she can't make a sound. So it's all internal until the end where it comes out. And actually, in the last sequence, when she goes and meets her, Dr. Saira, you realize she's a psycho. She's a sociopath and she's a psycho, total psycho. You can make out the madness in her. So I think it was all of it together. And I loved it. She was delicious. She was just delicious. And she was unpredictable. You don't know what she was going to do. You don't know, you never knew what she was thinking or where it was going to go. But she was completely in control of, she was like, everyone else was a puppet under her. So it was wonderful playing her. I'd done Satya, and then I get a call from Meera Nair, and she talks to me in Hindi, and she says, to the effect of, I don't know whether you can speak in English, but this is a part I want you to play. It's a Hindi English kind of. And I was like, yeah, I know how to speak in English. She was obviously going by what she saw in Satya, which was a huge compliment. And then she told me about what it was briefly and what Ria was. And honestly, it's a Meera Nair film. It's got Nasir Bhai and all these amazing stalwarts, Kulbhushan ji, and why would I say no? Like, it was like a no-brainer again. So it was a very interesting way we worked on it. We all moved to Delhi. I think I was there 15 days before, or probably a month, not a month, probably 15, 20 days before. And all the actors were there. So we'd start in the morning with yoga. It was like a nice school acting camp that we all went. And we'd start with yoga, and then Meera would get lots of breakfast for all of us. We would eat that, and then had the privilege and opportunity to have Nasir Bhai just, take acting classes. Like, he'd talk about it. And acting means he doesn't sit and teach you how to act, but like he'd do various workshops or activities or whatever. And then we'd have a lunch break, and then Meera would pick a scene or two, and then we'd get into the scene. I did not realize the impact of that film when I did it. I just knew I had a lot of fun, but I didn't know the kind of impact that film was going to have. And I can proudly say Monsoon Wedding is a cult film. That big scene of the confrontation, and I was dreading it. Like, oh God, we're going to reach that sequence at some point of time. But also by then, I think we had set Ria up very well. In fact, the first moment he walks in and you see her, you see her reaction, there's something totally off here. Her being protective about that little kid. And then finally realizing, I have to voice this. Because now it's another child is going to go through it. I love that moment where he comes to take her back home. It was just so beautiful. And of course, the privilege of working with Nasir Bhai. It's like when you're working with actors like this, you're just, you come out better. So I loved that scene. And even in the end, that one moment where, after the family photograph, when he tells them to leave, it's just, that moment is priceless. One of the things that I learned very early, and it was all thanks to Monsoon Wedding, was that every moment and every scene is not about you. You have to be able to turn into furniture and disappear in the background when need be. And that is the power of being a character over the need of an actor where you want to prove everything. Like, sab dikha dunga. Kyun sab dikhana? Nahi dikhana. If this moment belongs to XYZ, you have to stand behind, maintain the honesty of your character, and support the scene. That's it. And that's the beauty of an ensemble cast. And each character was so beautiful, so wonderful. So when I used to do television, when I started, I was mighty impressed by one actress. I mean, to the point of I was obsessed. I would just act like her all the time. And I was often told that you look like her, so that would be an even better reason to act like her. Then at some point of time, I realized I'm not a good mimic. So I need to drop this act. And I must have moved into doing something not so dramatic, probably. And then I did Satya. But Satya, she is an over-the-top person, not character. She is that kind of a person. She's raw, she's unbridled, she's totally out there. And but here, there was a lot of silence and a lot of stuff that went inside rather than outside. So I think that's where I got kind of addicted to subtlety. Where I realized that it's not about just projecting it. If you feel it, it's going to be seen through your eyes. So I think it happened during that time. And I'm so glad it happened. Because otherwise, I mean, it would be terrible if I was hamming all the while. I wish I had more time. I genuinely wish I had more time. The reason I say this is that it's not like I wanted to be 18 and jumping around trees or dancing. I don't know, maybe I would have done. I don't know. I just love the characters I play. I love the art of acting to create these people. But I wish the recognition had come earlier. Because now I am at the age which cannot be reversed. I can't go back to being 25, 30. Am I at the right place? Oh, yeah. Thank God for it. Thank God and thank OTT for it. Is it a surprise? Oh, totally. Because after what I had my career graph is, I thought this is it. This is how it's going to be. This is the end of it. And then comes Delhi crime and things change. Like, it suddenly changes, like, drastically. Suddenly it's not just about people appreciating, and people, when I say people, I mean directors or producers. Earlier it would be like, oh, we love your work and you're one of the finest actors, but it didn't translate into better roles or better work or better projects. Delhi crime kind of changed it for me, which is a big one. Am I happy with my graph? Well, I'm definitely grateful. I could have had a non-significant career. I could have been left craving for more, but I'm doing some fantastic work, and thank God for it, touch wood.